So Brian, last time we had a Q&A, you were grinning like the Cheshire cat because you're
I
ready to
still am.
just grill me.
I still am too. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I've been telling all my family members and my two friends that I have all about this and putting the Method Man on the grill,
Well,
low
here
and
we go.
slow.
And it looks like you've been on the grill a little bit too with that color you're getting down there in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. The vitamin D, I don't care what you say, it does not help out the hairline. It just ain't doing it.
I don't know who told you that garbage, but
I don't know. I read it on the internet, so it had to be true.
so to quote, actually say misquote Rush Limbaugh, in my formerly never nicotine stained hands, I have some questions for you.
That is so funny that you were thinking of that, because I was thinking of that like a couple weeks ago or whatever. In my formerly, I couldn't say nicotine stained hands, so I was going to say my currently creatine stained hands, because that's the supplement that I take for the gym. So I was like, that'll be what I use in my current creatine stained fingertips.
So hey, this is a great start. I didn't have this on there, but you're a bit of a gym rat, Brian.
Yeah.
Tell me about
it's the
that.
closest.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing to a social life I have. I don't mind admitting that, and I hang out with 70 and 80-year-olds when I go to the gym, and which makes me feel better about myself, because at least I can outrun them if there's ever a terrorist run on the gym. But no, I go at, usually it's get a bunch of work done, and then I go during a late morning, and I love that. So I work out with a couple of these guys that are in pretty good shape that I can try to aspire to with different, we have a little different competitions that we do between ourselves. So it's fun, and work on your diet and a bunch of other things, so you always meeting, good people there, which I really enjoy. And once you get, teasing each other and then holding each other accountable, it's a good situation,
Well, and since I've met you, I mean, you've talked about it, and not what I like about it is it's what you do. So it's not a brag thing. It's just whenever I hear you talk, whenever you're traveling somewhere, you're trying to find the gym, or you just got back from the gym. So it's interlaced in your life.
Absolutely. And everybody, when they ask, they're like, oh, well, what do you do to stay in the gym? And I'm like, have enough fun that you want to come back tomorrow. Forget everything else. These guys that are like, oh, we're going to be hurting and this and that. And, these guys, especially when it's like their first week, 2 weeks there, have fun. Do whatever it takes to fool your body into coming back the next day. That's all that matters. And to do anything else is superfluous. It doesn't matter,
Yeah. It's kind of your approach to a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
Same sort of thing, right?
You got to have fun with it, or else you're going to drop it. You got to be passionate about it. The same thing with work. You got to have fun with it. You got to have a passion for it, or else when push comes to shove, and there will be shoves, we know that, you're going to end up dropping it. So get to the point where it just becomes a habit, and then it's like, that's it. Then your mind doesn't have to think about it. So, which I like, the less my mind has to think about, the better.
So speaking of that, you've got a different background today. You've got a little bit of a tan. So I know you're down in Florida now. I think this is another thing. I think you guys you take your kids quite a bit down to Disneyland. Is that a true statement, or Disney World, I should say?
Disney World, yeah, we're always going all around, and it's an easy vacation spot for us, and so we'll do that. We'll usually drop them off at the park at 9:00, and then the wife and I will go to another park and then come back and pick them up. And usually, most of the time, security doesn't have them. Can't catch up with them till 2 p.m. or so.
As long as they got that fast pass, man, they're good, right?
Yeah, I have an 8, 10, and a 12-year-old. So, anybody who's got kids under 14, they know what I'm talking about, where they would be tempted to drop them off and just be like, here, guys, here's $100, fight it out.
I was 18. Just a quick aside, I went down to Florida with my parents. I think I was I might have been 16, 17. And we grew up with, remember the Wide World of Disney? It was
Oh
on
yeah,
Sunday night.
yeah.
And when I walked in there, even though I was 16 years old, when I saw that castle, it's like, oh, that is
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
But I remember this, my sister got lost. She was a year younger than me. And we didn't find her until we literally sat out in the parking lot and waited. And we security was looking for her. And she came out nonchalantly at, once the park closed, it came out and, she said, where you guys been? And we were
Oh my
frantic
word.
for hours trying to find her. She was having the
So,
time of her life.
oh my gosh, that is so scary. I have a friend up in New York City who got tired of his brother when he was younger and put him on the subway. Put him on the subway and let it take off. And I mean, this is New York City. And he went back and told his parents, he goes, yeah, I put Bobby on the subway. And they're like, you did what? Anyways, he was back within like 2 hours. They
Wow.
so can you
That's
imagine
crazy.
that?
No, I cannot. I
Oh,
cannot.
it was a hysterical story, he goes, but I guess he couldn't sit down for a week or so once his parents got done
Oh,
with
I
him.
bet. So
So
as an adult, is there anything you like to do when you guys go there? Because I know it's all about the kids, but is there
right,
anything you and your
right.
wife try to do when you're
Oh,
there?
I tell you what, the biggest thing I found is to not have an agenda and to go with the flow. Because if I try to have an agenda or I have to do this or whatever, it is just about, honestly, it's just about chilling and maintaining composure. First of all, that's priority number
Exactly.
one. And then number two, just enjoying the time, not overheating, not overextending or anything, just being like, it is for the kids and let them enjoy it. And then you grab a Starbucks, or if you're at Epcot, you grab one of their adult beverages and walk around and just kind of enjoy it. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So you kind of opened the door for me. So you talked about New York. You grew up it was at upstate New York.
Yep.
Yeah.
Catskills, town of 500.
Okay. So tell me about growing up there and what's your fondest memory growing up?
Okay. So just to recap, you're going to be hitting me with a bunch of questions here, correct? And
Mhm.
none of these questions I have seen, because I was like, I'm not even going to take a look at them. So this is all good stuff. So you can grill me on any of it. And at least I have an alibi for being unprepared. So, yeah. One of the fondest memories that I have of growing up in a town of 500 is your typical snowy night that we would have in the middle of winter. If we got 6, 8, 10 inches of snow, the road shut down. And in our town, there is no, there currently still is, and there wasn't back then, a stoplight at all in the entire town. That's how small it was. And you could go sledding or four-wheeling on the main road when we got snow. And so we'd go down one of the main roads and just sled. And that was a ton of fun because the snow was always packed down from cars and traffic. And so it made for like a luge. So that's one of the memories that I had. Another memory that I would have would be that kids would always want to, Halloween, they'd always want to TP, businesses and houses and egg them, stuff like that. It doesn't go on as much anymore. But do you remember that with
Oh yeah, what's
they'd
wrong with
use the
kids
toy?
these days? I
Yeah,
mean, they got their head
yeah,
in their phones, and that's the
that's
problem.
right. There's no,
Get a dozen eggs and a pack of toilet paper from your parents' pantry and
it's,
go to town.
it's it's pretty sad when we're like, man, go out and vandalize something, will you guys? Come on.
What has happened to our youth?
What has happened to our youth? I mean, my goodness, the good old days of egging neighbors' houses and toilet papering their trees on Halloween and things. Anyways, so we would grab my parents had a hardware store, and third generation. So we'd jump up on top of the roof, my brother and I, with paintball guns. And if any of the kids would come by and try TPing it, We'd snipe them.
Too good. All they hear is they just hear that little air sound and then poof.
Yeah. And if you grabbed I think it was a Tipman A5, which is pretty much an automatic or semi-automatic, I guess technically, paintball gun, and that thing sounded like a little 22 going off. So it'd go pop, 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 pop. Of course they would, and then they just start running.
Yeah, man, small town America, man. That is so much fun. How much snow do you guys? Because I used to go to Syracuse, and I know that's nowhere near like Buffalo. But what kind of snow did you guys get in the winter?
Yeah, we didn't get an incredible amount. Really, we weren't in the snow belt. The Catskill Mountains are far enough east that we wouldn't get a huge amount. Although certain times, you just have the luck of the draw, and it would, if you had a clipper that would come up the coast and then go a little bit further inland, then we'd get a decent amount. But no, it wasn't anything crazy. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's an easy question. Thanks, Mike.
Well, but it's fun.
Start off with the batting practice questions.
Folks get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
So, who's had the most impact on your business life?
Okay. Like a current businessman, or what do you
anybody? I mean, if you look back in your
down.
career, if you look back in your career and just say, there's one person that really, and maybe that's not fair, but one or two people that, if you look back and say over my entire career now, these two people have had a significant impact on me in my business life.
Right. Well, the impact probably has to be the most would be like my dad, my mom, watching them do business, both in a what should I do and what shouldn't I do mode. So obviously being around them, they're going to have some of the biggest impact. But I kind of, whenever I would, being from small town America, town of 500, anytime I got out, I was just like a dry sponge in a bucket of water. I mean, I was just soaking up anything. If you were sitting next to me on an airplane, Lord have mercy, you hated that seat because I was asking you questions, especially if you were an exec of any type. So I was always trying to get information from different people, whether it was some people I respected more because of their field, in certain areas. So I'd ask them, and I kind of divided it up, and I made a mental board of directors, my own personal board of directors, and I didn't tell them that. So I respected this person in their ability to grow their business. I respected this person in their ability to minimize risk and focus on finances. I respected this person just because of their executive nature and how they handle problems. And then, so I had my own personal board of directors, and they didn't know it, but I'd ask them specific questions and go from there. So I don't know if that answers the question good enough for you.
It does. I like that because I think, one is, and it's interesting because most of us, if you ask, do you have a hero or who was your mentor? A lot of people will say their parents, but, you being in a family business, you saw it differently, right? And
right.
Your parents were second gen?
Yeah.
Yep. So, but this personal board of directors, you talk to people, and even today, when you bring that up, Brian, they're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But for you to have the insight way back when to say, hey, I'm going to do this, and it's also just a way to keep tabs on people too, and have a consistent, regular contact with people, which I think is so important today.
Yeah, and I wouldn't tell them that because it would put too much pressure on them.
Sure.
And they'd feel that they were elevated in a specific area. But to have a conversation with them about a specific topic, that always worked out really well. So I'd love to ask questions. Having said that, the one time I did ask, I was asking a guy from New York City, an old school Italian guy, if he had any contacts on Wall Street, because that's where I wanted to go. I went to school for finance, investment banking, and that's where I actually wanted to go. And he was completely cold and almost rude to me. He's like, "No, I know nobody." I'm like, "Oh man, I really upset him." Turns out he was in the Italian mob, part of the Gambino family, and he was working with, at that time, that summer, he was working with the Russian mob to clean their money and pump and dump penny stocks. So at that time, I felt good with just getting a cold answer.
Yes, yeah.
He
You could have
ended
been
up,
the accountant to think about that. I think the accounnt too is out right now with
yeah,
with Ben, whatever,
Ben
Affleck.
Affleck. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I would, yeah, there's a slight difference between me and Ben Affleck, besides the hairline. And I would say that he at least would know what he was getting himself into, when actually I was just asking stupid questions to
Well, he's
mafia
a
soldiers.
Southie, so he kind of knew what was going
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah, Baskin.
So great lead in, because you've talked about this before, Brian, but you went to school, you're thinking you're going to be an investment banker. What drew you to that? And then what caused the pivot to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So, went to school for finance, investment banking. I got my first Forbes magazine. I guess, no, it was Fortune magazine. I got when I was 14 years old. Dad bought it for me because he had a discount subscription or whatever. And that got me into investments and doing all that before the internet, actually. And when you had to call in your orders for stocks and things like that, that got me into it, probably because there wasn't a lot of opportunity in our little town. And that really turned me on to, wow, this is what I could do. This is what I could become. And it didn't matter if you came from a single wide trailer like I did with nothing, that's what was like, wow, that's great. So went to school for that. Did a couple internships, one at Morgan Stanley, one for an international conglomerate, German conglomerate. And then parents' business was having a lot of trouble, and they were either going to sell or close down. So I left the internship and went back and helped them, and then finished my degree, and then ended up going back to the business because I graduated during the .com bubble bursting, and then it went from there.
So you got out of town for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're not
I was down in South Carolina and then up in Virginia. And then that's where I eventually met my wife in Virginia. And but then ended up back up in New York. So yeah, all over. The North wouldn't have me and the South wouldn't have me either. So it's kind of
a man with no nation. Come on. So I want you to think about this one. So
as if I haven't been thinking about the others.
Well, deep thoughts.
Okay.
So what's the number one tip you have for family members working in a family business? One that most people have never heard before. What's your unique tip to talk to family members? I know you deal with a lot of clients, small businesses. If you have a unique insight, what would that be? You know what? And we're not paying you to say it either. So I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to give it up your secret sauce.
I can't say that they've never heard it, but I can tell you that they won't do it. How's that? They're very resilient against doing it. And that is the mentality that 90% of small business owners and family owned businesses have is, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. Nobody cares for your business like you do. If I had $1 every time somebody gave me that line of bull crap, we wouldn't be talking right now. I'd have my own little third world country island or something like that. But the point is, you have to do it yourself if you want it done right. And you have to get rid of that mentality. That's disgusting. Your business won't be able to grow. Your family won't be able to enjoy you. It's going to wreck your body. I mean, and who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to say that nobody around you can do it as good as you because they don't own the business? Sorry, but that two things. Number one, that puts yourself on a really high pedestal. And when you're on that high of a pedestal, you know, the fall is pretty bad and it can hurt you. And number two, it shows that you don't know how to communicate, or you don't care to communicate to those around you. So that's one of the things that really has to be broken. That mindset of taking employees, and instead of you know, lording over them and telling them to do this and do that, and then when they don't do it, keep it inside of you till it boils over, and then you blow up at them. Try nurturing them. Try nurturing them and having patience with them, like you could or should do with your kids. You know, sometimes we don't have the patience with our kids, but we know they love us, and so we love them, and we keep training and working with them. Yeah. Okay. Why can't you treat your team that way and give them a little bit of leeway to fail? And so my big thing has always been, hey, if you think that they can do it with a 70% success rate, go for it. Let them fail 30% of the time. What could they possibly screw up on? That would be so big. If there is big areas, just limit them to that. Right. So, yeah. So that's one of the biggest things. And just to get that mindset into their heads is a huge, huge change. You just see it flip. And it opens up a whole nother world, like you and I have said. Yeah. So,
well, it's interesting. You and I have found this unique little corner of the world where, you know, if you spend some time here, if this is your first time seeing us, seeing this podcast, just go back and listen. And that very problem that Brian's been talking about, we're trying to crack the code.
Yeah.
Every week we're trying to crack the code on this.
Yeah. And there's going to be certain things that resonate with you and other things not yet resonating. That's okay. Grab onto that one piece and just, like you've said so much, treat it as an experiment, not as a project that's gonna wreck the corporation, or you're gonna fail at miserably and then you can't try anything else. No, just try it out. Experiment with this one aspect. It's a beautiful thing once you start thinking of the world that way, and your own world, which is your business.
Awesome. All right, quick pivot.
Okay.
When did you first buy your first Bitcoin?
I never did buy Bitcoin. I've not bought Bitcoin.
That answer. I love that answer.
The reason I have not bought Bitcoin is because I did not take the time to understand it, and I won't invest in things that I don't understand. That's kind of the Warren Buffett rule that I loved from him and Peter Lynch. And that's the fact that, you know, you got to understand it first, and because you can't. So that's I only invest in things that I understand, which means it's very minimal. No.
That's an interesting one, because there are people that have never bought it, people that bought it and held on to it, and they are sitting quite pretty right now. Or there's people like myself that bought it when it was below $1,000 a Bitcoin.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And did dollar cost averaging, and when it hit a certain level, I'm like, ooh, you can't go higher than that.
Yeah.
And dumped it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
made a little bit of money, but I missed the $100,000 mark.
Oh man. Yeah. Two things I've never invested in, Bitcoin or mutual funds. So I won't do mutual funds.
That's a very
unique, I tried them.
approach.
Actually, I did try them once, but yeah. So I tried them once and I realized the return was not good compared to what I do on my own. So I was like, sorry, we're done.
Now, what's interesting is a lot of Bitcoiners are heavy into AI. Now, you've never used AI before, have you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's, I need some intelligence to help me out. I don't care if it's artificial or real.
When's the first time you used like found, the Chat GPT or whatever, not the Canva, because there's a lot of software that is solely embedded AI in, but a
Right.
true LLM. When do you think you first had exposure and started using AI?
Well, yeah, I would say that was probably about a year and a half ago. I started
Hmm.
using ChatGPT in the paid version, and then you talked about Perplexity, and I really like the multiple, the different ways of accessing. You could use a Chat GPT, you could use a Grok, you could use the Gemini, a bunch of different ones. So I like that, and so that's where I've been playing most of the time now, has been in Perplexity. So
Has anything surprised you using it?
yeah, I've actually had a great time uh, creating investment strategies with it. So one of the big things I found that just to pivot back to small businesses, one of the big things I found that small businesses do not do is make good use of their excess cash. So excess cash that they have left over, that it only goes into checking accounts and it stays there, and you're getting 0.05% and something like that. When actually you can have a corporate trading account too, just like you would an independent trading account. So that's one thing I would advise to any small businesses out there that have that have excess cash at different times of the year. Put it into an investment. It's easy to get it out now. Everything is so liquid. The majority of those can just be transferred over within 48 hours. So anyways, having said that, I found some really cool investment strategies and things like that playing around with some of the AI features.
Yeah, it's incredible. The biggest thing I found, and we've talked about this a little bit, Brian, but don't outsource your thinking, right?
Yeah,
And what they're finding is that people that are doing AI first, and they're literally taking this, offloading this cognitive load and pushing it onto AI, whatever it is, it's diminishing their ability to think and to
yeah,
stay sharp. So to me, it's how do you use it to do really mundane things? So if I have to go through, I love it with PDFs, right? I've got a 25-page PDF. I don't want to spend 25, I don't want to spend hours going through that document and trying to find all the relevant stuff. Just basic summarization, those kinds of things. I found that it just becomes part of my everyday life. But like you're using it as saying, a lot about investing, finances, and saying, help me create this, right? So you're the creator and you're
right.
prompting. And what you get is a unique, potentially a unique way of doing whatever it's going to be. But you're the creator yet, right? It's that
Yeah.
human in the loop approach that we've talked about.
Yeah, what I found is the best return that I get from AI is when my goal is to optimize my research, and
Mm,
that's when it works out the best. Not to you can use it to start and kind of springboard yourself off, but if you have an idea and you're like, for instance, all right, I want to create a low risk investment strategy focused on like what I did, call options on this particular stock with their strike price around this and an expiration, blah, blah, blah. You give it very specific context and then have it go from there. And I found that really helps out with optimizing my research and just getting a better return on my time.
when you talk with people, so I almost everybody I talk to, especially my kids and my twins are now 20, going to be 25 this year. And it's interesting. I just asked them, are they using their friends? Are you using AI? When you talk to people, what are you hearing? What are you hearing from people?
Yeah, the majority are using it as a marketing content more
Mm,
than anything. There are those that are using it, but to actually use it as a PA, as a personal assistant, and to have conversations with them with AI to keep your mind fresh and keep it active and moving. That's what I try to use AI as is to um, keep my mind active and focused and not always just searching for an answer, but have answers brought to me and for me to discriminate back and forth. Okay, good answer, bad answer. I don't like this. I do. That's where I found it works out really good. But people haven't gotten to that point. The majority of small business owners, it seems like, unfortunately, either that or they're completely opposed to it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What would you tell? What's your prognostication? Where do small businesses look? How do they look at 5 years from now, from a technology standpoint?
AI is a great equalizer, I think, for small businesses. So you can, and we've said this before, and I believe that AI can really, really help those smaller mom and pop businesses with under 100, under 200 employees, where they can't afford to have their own CFO, COO, CMO, that type of thing. And they can actually leverage AI to have some fantastic advice and help, and basically have them as your own personal consigliere, so to speak, and that's a wonderful thing, because you don't have to waste and spend your time researching. You just have to work on asking the right questions, which is a wonderful situation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people balk at paying for AI. I think the first time I bought Perplexity, I think it's still $200 a year, so
Yeah.
$20 a month.
Yeah.
But there are some new models out there that are $200 a month, and they can go up to way more than that. But if you start looking at, if a small business can do what you're talking about, which essentially is you have some of the best thinkers in the world in any domain, and let's say you pay $5,000 a year for that. That seems like a pretty good ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. Because how are you gonna excuse me, how are you gonna afford somebody with that expertise for $5,000 a year? You won't be able to. And so
Exactly.
really, your only responsibility is to ask the right questions and to be pessimistic about the answers and dig deeper into it. That's it. And that's a wonderful situation to be in for small business owners, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brian, my last question: what's
Okay.
next? What's next for you?
What's next? So, yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I was just talking to my wife, and, I sometimes we put ourselves under undue pressure, and, I love to laugh and joke, and to come across very, very laissez-faire and not very serious, but I'm very serious, almost to the point of it being detrimental sometimes, and planning things out. And I realize that my kids are 8, 10, and 12, right? So in 10 years, every one of them will be adults. And time goes by very quickly. And my epiphany this last couple weeks has been, man, if your business is taking you away from your family, or maybe preventing you from being present there emotionally and mentally, maybe you're there physically like I've been, but if you're not there mentally and emotionally for your family, you do a recheck. Okay, re-engineer things, and change around some of your priorities, maybe. So that's kind of where I'm looking at right now, believe it or not. Just better make sure that I'm redeeming the times. So whatever that looks like, that's going to be my general answer. But
Well,
it is all, yeah.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say I'm impressed. I'm impressed at your humble approach to this, because you and I talk about this stuff all the time, but we're in the midst of that very thing, right? Of amazing. So my kids are a little bit older than yours, but I remember that time, Brian, and I remember my kids being in sports, and I was lucky enough, very flexible schedule to be able to be there for them. And you don't want to miss that. So what's interesting is the very things you and I are talking about to small business owners, you're facing. right?
Yeah.
You've got parents,
Yeah.
right? That have been in business, a brother that's been in, or that's in business. You've got young kids. How do you juggle all that while we're out there trying to figure out how do we help small businesses, and we can get consumed by that. And the very thing that you say you shouldn't do as a small business, you start doing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like Godfather 3, you get pulled out and they
Mm.
keep on drawing you back in, you get out and they draw you back in. So that's a habit. And that's a good thing for us to be passionate and desiring that end goal and to be consumed with it. That's a wonderful God-given trait. However, we have to be careful that it doesn't come in front of and on top of our responsibilities as leaders in our own family. And that's been the biggest challenge, and probably will be.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Well, Brian, thank you so much for sharing. You and I've got to know each other over the last, I think we're going on 3 years now, potentially, and we've known each other. And I know a little bit about you,
yeah.
but be able to share with myself, and then also with with our listeners and watchers, to get to know us a little bit better. And this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your openness and honesty and humbleness today. It's been great.
Well, I appreciate the easy questions. I was afraid I was going to have to break out AI to answer some of these questions. So thank you, Mike.